Take Three Wrestling Podcast. It is Thursday, February the 6th, 2025, the first show post Royal Rumble, the first official show on the road to WrestleMania. We're back. We are the three-man weave that is going to take you through the weekend that was professional wrestling right here on the Take Three Wrestling Podcast. I am Mikey B. We are joined, as always, by the other half of the Fat Siders, Big Jim.
Oh, hey, yo.
Skinny Virgil. He's muted.
Oh, there he is.
We go.
He's muted.
I said, hey, yo.
Hey, yo.
Do
we got a
do we sponsor Jacob Fatu?
Wow, it's like I said that he was going to mention something about Jacob Fatu on this show.
No,
right
because he wears our colors. Like, I'm assuming we're sponsoring him, right? Like,
I think he's sponsoring us.
Yeah, I think that's the better way to describe it.
Are we three of his kids?
Maybe?
He's got like 17.
Question mark.
Yeah.
We will talk about the Royal Rumble fallout. We do have a topic from Joe on Swerve Bro or not Swerve Bro. We are going to move my topic to next week, which was basically fantasy book, the WrestleMania card post Royal Rumble. But due to time constraints outside of our controls, aka we went a little long on the 3CT show tonight.
Yeah, 3CT actually talked about wrestling, and then Mike almost broke our brains for Tuesday. So, yeah, both of those shows went super long this week.
So real quick, I want to rip off this blind ranking to Joe, and I want to see what his answers are because he's the game show guy here. He loves his game shows.
I do.
All right, so I have two, and you'll be the only one that gives your answers because Jim already gave his answers. I just want to see where you stand along with them.
And when you say game shows, are we talking like reality game shows, or are we talking like Price is Right?
So the first one is Nickelodeon game shows.
Okay.
And the second one is final challenges in the games.
Okay.
All right. So first up, the Nickelodeon one. First up, Figure It Out.
Oh, I really like that show.
1 being the best, 5 being the worst.
I'm going to go middle of the pack for that one. I'm going to go 3.
All right. Double Dare 2000.
Specifically 2000?
Double Dare 2000.
That's the one that didn't have Mark Summers, right? He was like the announcer on that one.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't the host. Yeah, that's a 4. I mean, that's going down low on the list for that.
All right. Guts.
You know, okay, so here's what's funny. I never actually really liked Guts as a kid because, spoiler alert, I was not an active child. But in my adulthood, like, huh?
You think me and Jim were active youth?
No, but I'm just saying, like, and like I feel like it's a surprise because I'm a very active adult, and so that's for me to say. If you told me that Universal Studios tomorrow opened up like the aggro crack, I would go climb that shit. So I'm gonna give it a 2. I've come around on Guts.
Family Double Dare.
Oh, fuck.
You have the 1 and the 5 remaining.
I know. That's why I said, oh, fuck. Because I don't know. Because, damn, I'm going to be really mad if the last one is Legends of the Hidden Temples. Because, like, that's number 1. But I love me some Family Double Dare. So easy for me to say. Shit. I'm I'm gonna play my odds, and I'm gonna put that at 5.
All right, so at number 5, you have Family Double Dare. At number 4, Double Dare 2000. Number 3, you have Figure It Out. Number 2, you have Guts. And your number 1 is Legends of the Hidden Temple.
I felt like you couldn't play this without having that as one of them, so I had to play the odds on that.
So the 3CT guys, they had Figure It Out at 3,
Spoiler
Double
alert.
Dare at... Yeah, sorry, yes, my bad. Forgot the spoiler alert tag there. But listen to it, because I break Tim halfway through this.
Yeah.
Double Dare 2000 at 4, Guts at 2. They put Family Double Dare at 1, and we're stuck with Legends at 5.
Yeah, no, you got to play those odds. Like, I mean, you could have said anything. Like, Nick Arcade could have accidentally ended up at my number 1.
That was something that they
we brought that up.
Yeah, no, like, that's valid. I played the odds. I never win at gambling.
They had that. They had, Finders Keepers was another one that they had mentioned.
I don't even know that one.
Those were the ones that they were back and forth on. All right, so next up, it's the final challenge of the game.
Okay.
So first up, the Temple Run from Legends of the Hidden Temple.
I'm fine with putting that at number 1. I mean, again, if Universal had that, I would go do that on a regular basis.
All right.
I would also probably fail at putting together the Shrine of the Hidden Monkey.
We talked about how could you fail that? But
3 pieces, but I would fail.
Well, it is. Next up, from the legendary game show The Price is Right, the Showdown, the Showcase Special Showdown. Easy for me to say.
I mean, that's legendary, but at this point, there's a whole documentary about how somebody broke it. So that's a 4.
All right.
And that's a good documentary if you've never seen it. I think it's on Hulu or Netflix.
Next up is the Aggro Crag.
I'm going to go with a 2 on that one.
All right. Next up is the Eliminator from American Gladiators.
That was always fun. Shit. I feel like that would eliminate me, though. Like, I don't know that I could actually do that even in my current, like, healthy state. But I'm going to give that a 3. I'm solid with that.
All right, so at number 1, you have the Temple Run. At number 2, you have the Aggro Crag. At number 3, you have the Eliminator. At number 4, the Showcase Showdown. And your number 5, you also, spoiler alert, the 3CT guys got stuck with this at number 5. Not because they wanted to, but, well, because it's what was there. It's the Big Sweep from Supermarket Sweep.
That one hurts. I'm not gonna lie, that hurts.
By the way, any of your free streaming platforms, like, you know, the Roku channel,
Pluto,
Plex, Pluto, any of those free ones, they have a 24/7 Supermarket Sweep channel. And goddamn if I don't end up on there just when I'm feeling bad about myself and just hit the fucking
So the 3CT guys, they had the Eliminator at number 1, the Showcase Showdown at number 2, the Aggro Crag at 3, the Temple Run at 4, and then the Big Sweep at 5.
Yep. So
honestly, the funny thing is I'm not mad at it. Like, all 5 of those were number 1s.
Yeah, like they were great. They were definitely great options for sure.
And we were talking about it. You could do another group of 5 that don't have those involved.
Yeah.
Final Jeopardy,
Totally.
the final puzzle of Wheel of Fortune, the Double Dare, the Slopsticle course, the Slimesticle course, whatever they called it.
That's a classic.
Like, you can put that. Yeah, you can put that in there. The final of the $100,000 pyramid. You know.
Yeah.
We just nostalgia game shows alone, you could probably do an entire list.
Family Feud.
Fast Money.
Fast Money?
Fast Money. I was like, what do they call that?
I get
that
so
one's
mad.
Legendary.
I get so mad at some people on Fast Money.
I will unfortunately say this sometimes about Fast Money. If I'm not watching the show, the only thing I can think of is the part from Family Guy when Lois is playing Fast Money and she's holding Stewie and Stewie just starts giving out his own answers.
Yeah.
What do you like to sit in? My own feces.
Have you
Name
ever
a fruit. Play Aiken. What do you do on the weekend? Black guys.
have you ever seen? I think it's from like a British version of Family Feud, where the guy answers turkey for like the first 3 answers of Fast Money.
Yes.
And like the first one's like something you bring to the beach. He's like turkey. But then like the other 2 answers actually make. I'm gonna see if I can find that clip. It is still one of the funniest fucking clips.
All right, so real quick while Jim's looking that up, update on the Fantasy Wrestling League. I currently still lead the way with 56 points. Joe is down 3. He's at 53 points. Jim at 48 post collision Dynamite last night.
But who had the Royal Rumble winner?
Both of you did.
But who had the men's Royal Rumble winner? I'm talking about the one that mattered.
Oh wow.
Jim did because Charlotte Flair won that.
Hey, can I make a trade?
Oh, you want to make an ad drop? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I mean, an ad drop. Can I drop Becky Lynch and put in La Knight?
Are we allowed to do trades?
I mean, you're allowed to do free agent pickups.
Yeah, I didn't.
But I mean, are we allowed to do like actual trades? Like,
Sure.
I've never thought about that aspect. Interesting.
We could, yeah, we could. Yeah, I want to put in LA Knight over Becky Lynch.
All right, so Jim is officially relieved her of her duties and is picking up.
Are you unconvinced that Becky is going to show up before WrestleMania?
I can't wait till Becky Lynch returns on Monday and fucking beats Rhea Ripley for the women's world title. That's going to be really awesome for me, by the way.
How much are you going to hate yourself if that actually happens?
Oh, well, I can't hate myself much more than I already do. But Joe, I was telling Mike the other day, I bought a whiteboard.
I am also going to make a change. So if you want to get your marker ready, I'm going to cut Io Sky, and I'm going to pick up current one half of the AEW Tag Team Champions, Shelton Benjamin.
Ooh, okay.
Joseph, would you like to make any moves?
No, but maybe next week. Maybe I will look at my roster and figure out who's on it and research.
You mean like Nick Gage, who I don't think will be on a show that we score all year?
Wait, Nick Gage is on my roster?
He is.
Yeah.
Ew, can I drop Nick Gage?
You can.
Sure.
Okay, who's available that's like worth picking up?
Okay. Name a wrestler. No, name a wrestler. We'll tell you if they're on any roster.
Logan Paul.
Available.
He would be available.
All right, give me Logan Paul.
All right.
All right, there it is. All right. Rosters are official for next week. Bang-a-rang. All right, so where do we want to start?
I can find that clip. Hold on, let me see if I can. Here we go.
Why the hell did I have Nick Gage?
Take with them to the beach.
Turkey.
The first thing you buy in a supermarket.
Turkey.
A food often stuffed.
Turkey.
Any famous snooker player.
Hurricane Higgins.
Let's try again.
But just the fact that he hits turkey.
I was waiting for him to say something turkey for the player too.
Snooker player.
Turkey.
I feel like he ran through his mind real quick and was like, "Is there a turkey in that?"
He did.
But like the turkey, and then the ha ha ha, just the fucking, just cracks me up every time. But no, we can. Let's jump into the topics here. So, of course, Royal Rumble this past Saturday. We're not really going to go over the entire show, but we know the Royal Rumble match winners. Charlotte Flair wins the Women's Royal Rumble. Jey Uso wins the Men's Royal Rumble. We'll start with the Women's. And was Charlotte Flair a good choice to win the Women's Royal Rumble match?
Joe, I'll let you start.
Yeah, I'll start with you, Joe.
Was she a good choice? So I'm going to break this down in two directions. Okay? The first direction, from a quality of wrestling standpoint, from a you're going to get a 4-star or better match out of her at WrestleMania standpoint. Absolutely, great choice. From a does the audience give half a flying fuck standpoint? Absolutely not. Horrible choice. Fucking turkey. That's what kind of choice this was.
But I guess my question to you then is, who?
The person who didn't show up for some odd reason. Becky Lynch should have won that match. I don't know why she wasn't there, but she should have been there, and she should have won that match.
Out of the 30 participants that stepped foot in the Women's Royal Rumble, who?
Okay. You're going to be surprised by this answer.
When you tell me Nikki Bella, I'm not going to be surprised.
No, I'm not. She was great on the Traders.
I mean, that may be my answer.
Alexa Bliss. I think I would have had Alexa Bliss making her return, eke out the win somehow, and survive out there. I think the crowd would have gone crazy for it. Honestly, there were 70,000 people in that building, and you could hear a pin drop when Charlotte Flair won that match. I think the crowd cared a lot more about the return of Alexa Bliss. I think they cared more about the return of Nikki Bella than they did about Charlotte Flair, quite frankly. So I don't know. Like I would have gone with Alexa. I don't know that I would have gone with Alexa going into the match, but I think the way she looked in the match would have made me go with her. So like that is a little bit of, what do they call it? Like Thursday morning baseball
Monday morning
playing?
quarterback?
Monday morning
That
quarterback.
guy. So it is a little bit of that in saying that. Going into the match, if I had to pick from those 30 people to win, it's hard because like Liv Morgan deserves it, but I also really like the idea of her and Raquel as the tag team champions.
It's
So
insane that Roxanne Perez was the last person eliminated in that match.
I wouldn't have been mad if Roxanne had won. That would have been a shocker.
That would have been an all-time shocker.
I think we're forgetting the major points here, though. Who are the champions?
Tiffy Time and Rhea Ripley.
All I've heard for the last 6 months, the dream match is Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair. All I've heard for the last 6 months is Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair 2 in front of an actual crowd that won't get every male that is not gay in trouble when they watch it.
True.
It's the dream match. Charlotte Flair made too much sense for it not to be Charlotte Flair. It's probably the reason why Becky Lynch wasn't there.
Yeah, I don't think you do the Becky return if she's not winning.
Correct.
It definitely made so okay, right? That's the thing, and this is what my topic will go into. Well, so I won't say too much about it now, but like you're right. Charlotte Flair, from the moment she was announced for the match, from the moment that it was okay, she's returning and all that, made the most sense out of all 30 women in that match to win. So you can't, like, I'm not mad that it happened, and I almost feel like it's almost more just a Charlotte Flair really isn't the most likable person. And that's it. Like, and I get it, she's a heel. So, like, she doesn't need to, I mean, it's arguable whether or not she's a heel right now, but she's usually a heel. And so she doesn't need to be likable. She just needs to be good at her job, which she is in leaps and bounds. Like, that's the thing. Like, she's like Tom Brady. Like, I don't like the person. I don't want to sit down and have a tea with the person, but I will watch the person do their job all day long because they do a hell of a good job at it and do it in a really entertaining way. Like, Charlotte Flair is one of the few women I could genuinely say I've seen have 4-star or better matches on a consistent basis. You know, she deserves all the praise that she gets, but she kind of also seems like an asshole. Let's ask Andrade.
Let's not.
I mean, he would probably say asshole at this point.
You know, she's on her third marriage. Rick was on 4. So, like, we got the competition going.
Life's
there.
tough. Wear a helmet.
Yep.
Here's my whole issue when it comes to it. There was 3 believable people that could have won that Royal Rumble. Maybe 4. One of them came out at number 1 or number 2, wherever Io Sky came out.
1.
Okay, cool. Don't think we're going the distance after Bayley did it last year. Liv Morgan, who came out at 2.
Mm-hmm.
Nia Jax, who came out at 30. Charlotte Flair. And Nia Jax is getting her title rematch at Elimination Chamber in Canada.
Right.
So she already has a reason to have a title match. So what's the point? The fact of the matter is I think this is top to bottom one of the cards for the women's side that you look at and you go, there wasn't a lot there.
Yeah.
Like are you saying Jordan Grace in her debut? You taking Roxanne Perez in her second or third Rumble as a member of the NXT roster should have won it?
So you had 5 NXT entries. You had Jordan Grace. You had
the
Trish
5
Stratus
entries were
and Nikki Bella as like your legend appearances.
Yep.
So there's 7 spots out of 30 that are not winning for sure.
But now I'm just throwing this out there though, okay? Because you're right. There were 3 women, maybe 4, that going into that match you could argue has a believable chance of winning, has been built up to a point where you're like, yep, I could see this person deservedly winning this match. It makes sense. Given the fact that there's 0.0 chance that a women's title match is main eventing either night of WrestleMania, and given the lack of big women stars, which is why you only have 3 women in there who are believable to win it, isn't that the perfect storm for giving us a surprise winner? Putting over a Roxanne Perez, strapping the rocket ship to her, making that happen?
But you have Roxanne Perez who's already fighting for a title at Vengeance Day. Like,
yeah, but it wouldn't be the first time that somebody did that and then still had a belt in NXT. Kevin Owens, when he debuted in WWE, still had the NXT title for a while.
But he didn't win the Royal Rumble. He didn't.
Right, it'll make it even more. Or Jordan Grace. Go with Jordan Grace. You want to strap the rocket ship to her? Like, I'm down for that.
I think out of the names that I mentioned there, the 5 NXT, Jordan Grace, Trish Stratus, Nikki Bella, I think the only one that you could have even possibly had a chance with, and I think it would have been more just because of the shock factor of it, would have been Jordan Grace.
Correct.
Just make her look like, and then she has to go win the title.
Yeah, she's got to either beat Rhea or Tiffy.
And I think it would probably be Tiffy. Probably.
So it's going to be real wild whenever Tiffy beats Charlotte Flair.
Oh yeah, I'm already locked in on that.
To be fair, she doesn't have to challenge either of them. There's already been a precedent set for that. She could challenge for the NXT Women's title, and we could have Jordan Grace versus Julia Gulia, whatever the fuck her name is, on WrestleMania.
You're literally telling me that you don't want the most flat response of all time. Nothing says flat like going and fighting for the developmental title at WrestleMania.
But it's been done before, as I'm saying. Charlotte did it back in 2020.
Hi, welcome to the WWE roster. You're part of the family now. Now you get to go fight for the developmental title at the biggest show of the year after winning the Royal Rumble.
But I'm saying though, it's already happened. Like it's
but
not
why
like
would
this will be a first time? So like,
okay, but what I'm
set.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. But what I'm countering to you is make me care less, because that's what that does. If she comes in and beats 22 of the active roster, the 7 other people, and Jordan Grace goes, I want to face Julia for the NXT title at WrestleMania. No. That match, that doesn't sound like it's anything I want to watch.
And so,
Not right now.
So here's the thing, and I looked it up. After Charlotte won the Royal Rumble in 2020, she said she had already defeated the women's champions of both Raw and SmackDown. She had held those titles multiple times. Rhea then interrupted her, and the NXT women's title Charlotte had only held once, and Rhea kind of threw the gauntlet down because Charlotte had never beaten Rhea. So
I also think they made it a point to say on the show the winner would fight for either the women's title or the like they didn't mention the NXT title at all.
No, but I mean, I don't believe they mentioned it during the 2020 Royal Rumble either. Like,
I'm just saying.
No, I'm aware. The point is, like, wrestling, you can always make things up as you go. Like, that's kind of the beauty of wrestling. But like, there was kind of a backstory logic to why the Charlotte would choose Rhea Ripley in 2020.
Yeah, but like you said, you can make anything up. Like, you could backstory logic it where Julia comes out and is just like, hey, how you going to challenge for one of those belts when you haven't even won the NXT title yet? Like,
why would I fight for a title that I've been the TNA Knockouts title that's greater than the NXT title?
But I'm saying, like, they could bullshit it through. That's all wrestling is.
They could, but I think I think that's also setting Jordan Grace up for being looked at as less than.
That's all I'm saying. It's 100%. That
like when you win the Royal Rumble and you have the ability to put yourself in a main event match at WrestleMania for one of the the top 2 titles in the company. If you come in on, I know you were in the Rumble last year, but if you come in as a new member of the roster and you literally have the opportunity to go to the number 1 spot in the company, I think you're telling the world that you're less than if you select the NXT title, because it tells me as the viewer you can't beat Tiffany Stratton or Rhea Ripley, so you're settling for a match against a developmental talent that you can beat. That's how I like. I would. It doesn't come across well because, again, like, Charlotte had already been there, done that, beat these people. I'm bored by beating these people. I could easily just go and win the Raw or SmackDown title again. And then here comes Rhea Ripley. Hey, bitch, try beating me. Cool. Like, Jordan Grace has never beaten Tiffany Stratton. Jordan Grace has never beaten.
Right.
So I just think, like, for me, I think it's like that kind of sets up.
I feel like it's a major step backwards if she wins the Rumble on her first night as an active member of the roster.
Okay.
And then looks up and goes, I want to fight for the developmental title instead.
So, all right, so fair enough. Like, I'll concede that one to you guys. But even then, you said yourself the 2 big matches that have been volleyed about are Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the 3rd time, which I, for one, would love, or Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton. So Charlotte's involved in both of those dream matches, which means one of them doesn't happen. So why not Jordan Grace versus Tiffany Stratton? Or Jordan Grace versus Rhea Ripley? Like, all I'm saying is this year's Rumble for the women felt like the perfect opportunity to put somebody over that isn't already one of those top, 5 women that are genuinely over. Like, the divide in the women from the main event to the lower is a lot bigger than it is on the men's side. And it's been that way for a long time. And I think they're making progress with it now with the secondary titles in the women's division. I think those are doing more than the tag titles have done for making that, like, divide kind of come closer. So props to WWE for that. But you got to make more stars. Like, this is an opportunity. The Rumble is an opportunity to make a star, especially if you don't have anyone who, like, must win.
Or they're going to make the star on the grandest stage of them all when Tiffany Stratton beats the 2-time Royal Rumble winner, the 12-time women's champion, all the accolades that Charlotte Flair has. Plus, you started building Rhea Ripley potentially versus Io Sky with her getting Io disqualified on Monday Night on Raw. There are other routes that work in that vicinity as well.
Good. Yeah.
I don't hate the Charlotte Flair win. Do I love it? No, because shocker, Charlotte Flair shows back up and wins something major. I'm so surprised. In other news, water is wet, ice is cold.
Tom Brady.
No, I think it's more Patrick Mahomes for me. Like, I would actually enjoy sitting down and having a conversation with Tom Brady because Tom Brady actually got hit. Patrick Mahomes just cries to referees and gets penalty flags thrown in his favor. To be very transparent about that. But I'm just saying, I think I would enjoy the fact that if Tiffy beats Charlotte, it's just another feather in Charlotte's cap that, like, Tiffany Stratton beat that person. It helps get Tiffy more over because to a lot of people, Tiffany Stratton is only the champion because she had the briefcase.
What happens when Charlotte beats Tiffany?
Then we're back to Charlotte Flair dominating the SmackDown division for the next 6 months.
But I'm saying, was it worth it at that point in your mind?
If she has a great showing and can stay in the main event picture from there, sure. It's whatever happens from that point. Tiffany Stratton loses to Charlotte and goes back to being a jobber and feuding with Candice LeRae over who wants to be Nia Jax's best friend again. No, it's a failure.
Fair.
So Mike, you say Charlotte.
Begrudgingly, I think she was the right choice.
Okay.
And I think it's solely because I just don't know that there was anyone else.
Yeah, like I do not like Charlotte winning. It was predictable. But if we get the payoff that I think we are, and I agree that I do think it is Tiffany Stratton beating Charlotte Flair, then Charlotte Flair is absolutely the correct choice to win the Women's Royal Rumble. I don't like it, but it's weird because I feel like the two matches were complete opposites of the other. I thought the women's match was a better Royal Rumble match and I didn't like the ending. For the men's, and we'll transition to that, I didn't really like the match. It felt just very paint by numbers until we got the like that Cena, Roman, Seth, like that interchange with all of those like the heavy hitters coming in. Until about that point, it was paint by numbers. Then it kind of really ramped up to the ending, which I loved. So Jey Uso. Mike, I'll start with you this time. Jey Uso, was he the correct person to win the men's Royal Rumble?
I will tell you my answer has changed drastically since Saturday evening.
Okay.
Because when I started, when it happened, I texted you. I was super hyped for it, but I didn't know if it was the right decision because I always thought it would have been Phil or John, maybe even Roman per se, or even Seth. Jey Uso was on paper probably like the 6th or 7th, and I think it was a very distant 6th in my mindset. But as I woke up Sunday, as I rewatched the show Monday afternoon before I went to work, yeah, he was the right choice. He 100% was the right choice. This is an opportunity to get over the biggest singular person that you've slowly been building for the last 5+ years to be this single star. And the fact that you're going to have, you had 70,000 people in Lucas Oil Stadium yeeting their brains out. You're going to have 80,000 people in Allegiant Stadium doing the same thing. This guy has gone from being one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time to putting himself in the conversation, especially one of the best wrestlers of the 2000s. And I wholeheartedly believe that it's the right choice. I know Tim didn't feel the same way. He mentioned somebody else in Mr. Fatu, which I think his time is coming, but enjoy that feud with Braun Strowman that you currently have going on. But yeah, I don't know that, like, you used, and Joe said it, using the Rumble to get somebody new over. Well, you did. And now it's the home run that's going to be hit. And the thing is, when you look at it, coming out of it, is he facing Cody? Is he facing Gunther? Like, which one is it? I think that's a real fun question that we get to find out over the next week or two. Because the easy answer is Gunther. But the answer that it could always be is that he's going to go fight Cody and try to avenge the family. That's a piece that not a lot of people are actually contemplating and thinking about. Like, there's so many integral pieces of the storyline now that we get to sit back and enjoy and watch. So I think Jay 100% was the right answer. Because who's to say how many more years of this yeet movement do we actually have? So why not hit it while you can? You know, I don't think he was ready last year. The Jimmy versus Jay match proved that. But there was a real choice where coming out of that match, he could have just phoned it in and not cared anymore and gone back to being a tag team wrestler. And Jey Uso did everything in his power over the last 250 plus days to wipe that stench off of him. And I think he's earned this opportunity here at this WrestleMania.
All right, Joe, was Jey Uso the right choice?
Yeah, yes. Jey Uso is 100% the right choice. And the thing is, I agree with Mike. He wasn't the obvious choice. There were about 5 other guys that were the obvious choice. And I wouldn't have been mad if any of them had won. You gave me a Cena win. You gave me a Punk win. Roman even. Like, I wouldn't have been mad at any of that, honestly. Which is almost what makes it even better that Jay won, because it wasn't obvious. But then once it happens and you look at it and you're like, well, wait a second. This guy sells more merch in this company. He's either the number 1 merch seller or he's number 2 behind Cody.
I would say that he's number 2.
And that's honestly,
Maybe,
if you're number 2 behind the guy that's the world champion,
maybe number 3.
Which is fine too. Like, the point is, though,
I think Roman might be neck and neck with him because they still sell a shit ton of Roman stuff.
Which is fair. But I feel like the amount of Yeet stuff that they sell is got to be out of this world.
So on November 22nd of 2024, the WWE released their top 10 merchandise sellers of the year to that point. 10 Damian Priest, 9 Randy Orton, 8 LA Knight, 7 Rhea Ripley, 6 Liv Morgan, 5 John Cena, 4 Jey Uso, 3 CM Punk, 2 Roman Reigns, 1 Cody Rhodes.
Yeah. I mean, that says, like, this is, like you said, this is a guy that if you had told me 2 years ago he'd ever be anything more than a tag team wrestler, I'd have been like, that's cute. Like, maybe they'll get him to an IC title. That'd be weird, but okay, sure. And now he's the number 4 highest selling merch person on his own. Just him, Oos? Like, that's wild. The fact that this man has gotten so organically over on his own, just because, like, let's face it, the Bloodline storyline was never built for him to become a huge star. It was built for him to be a big part of it and play his role. but it was never meant for him to become literally the main event player at WrestleMania, not to this level. So, you know, you put all that in and you're like, wow, he took that supporting role in that storyline and literally turned himself into a superstar, literally turned himself into one of the top names in the company. It's impressive. And it feels like this Rumble win is like giving him his flowers. It's giving him his, you know what? You did that, Oos. Like, you did that.
So, Fightful Select reported the sources close to Fanatics and WWE confirmed the top 4 merchandise sales for Royal Rumble weekend. Generic WWE and Royal Rumble branded merchandise was the top seller, which it usually is because they have the featured belts and all that stuff.
We were here.
When it comes to talent, John Cena took the top spot from Cody Rhodes.
Shocker.
So Cena was one. So it was WWE General was number 1, John Cena 2, Cody Rhodes 3. Jey Uso was the 3rd biggest merch seller for talent. And that was boosted by online merch sales after the win. So for the weekend, the online sales after the Royal Rumble win boosted his. Roman Reigns rounded out the top 5. Alexa Bliss merch also moved very well after her return. So,
like, at the end of the day, one of the biggest criticisms that WWE, at the very least, has gotten over the years, more so during the Vince years, very often during the Vince years, but not really as much during the Triple H years, but it's still, there's a track record, is not paying attention to what the audience is telling you. And when the audience is saying, this guy is our star, this guy is our choice, being like, yeah, I guess. I mean, arguably, they even did it last year with LA Knight. You know, the audience was super, super behind LA Knight, and WWE Creative was like, we'll make him U.S. champion. We'll do that, but we're not going to go all the way with it. And he was over to the point where you could have made him world champion. That could have easily been a thing, and I think they know it. So the fact that they're doing this here with Jey Uso, and I'm not saying it's guaranteed he's going to become world champion. Honestly, I think you can have just...
I will.
But here's the thing, though. I was thinking about this. I don't think that he loses anything if he doesn't win the belt, because I think that then you do have the kind of similar to Cody, but you do have the retribution arc that you can build from that. So you still, the Royal Rumble win is enough for him to now be a main event superstar more than just his nickname. Like, for the foreseeable future, he's in that pantheon. He's in that level with your Punks and your Rollins and your Reigns and all those guys. He's there. He's made it.
Okay, so is he facing Cody Rhodes or is he facing Gunther? Because I think that the way you answer that has 2 different thought processes of what you just said.
If he faces Gunther, I think he has to win.
That's what I'm saying.
If he faces Cody, I think it's okay if he loses. That's
exactly the way I was looking at it. Because
if
he wrestles Gunther,
he's got to win.
He has to win because that's the story arc. He lost to him at Saturday night's main event. He got into the Rumble. He won the Rumble. And now he has to beat him.
And let's also be honest, of the 2 belts, the one that it feels like they feel safer putting on Jey Uso is that belt. That's the belt that they're using to give guys a shot. Damian Priest had that belt. Gunther's had that belt. So, like, Jey Uso being the next guy to hold that belt fits in the theme of that belt, you know, where it's like, these are the future stars and the workhorses that we're giving them this shot.
I mean, he is also 0 for his last 2.
Against Gunther.
0 for his last 3 against Gunther.
So, yeah, no, if he fights
on
Gunther,
television,
he's got to win.
Gunther beat him on the February 19th, 2024 for the Intercontinental title. He beat him in the semifinals of the King of the Ring and then beat him at Saturday night's main event.
Yeah, no, I think it's 100%.
Like, him losing story arc-wise to Cody
works.
To an extent, I think it works. Because here's the deal. I don't think Cody's holding the WWE Championship until WrestleMania 42.
Correct.
I don't either. To be
So that's
honest.
why I don't necessarily know if him losing to Cody potentially works, but it would have to work in some weird way, like Cody drops the title to like Solo or to or to Jacob Fatu before next year's WrestleMania.
Or you don't make it a WrestleMania to WrestleMania story arc, and Jay beats him for it at SummerSlam on one of the 2 nights in MetLife. I mean, now that you're doing
Cena point.
no, but now that you're doing multiple stadium shows, you gotta have those big things at all of these shows. Like, this is no longer all these things, special things can only happen at WrestleMania because that's your stadium show every year. Now, the Rumble's a stadium show, SummerSlam's a stadium show. I'm sure we're not far off before Survivor Series will be a stadium show.
Yeah, Survivor Series ain't
Never.
going to be Money in the Bank's a stadium show.
Correct.
They gotta have one in the fall then, though.
Usually their stadium show in the fall is Saudi.
True.
Or insert going to Clash at the Castle, somewhere in England, somewhere in France.
This year is gonna be France, right?
Yeah, Clash in Paris or whatever.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They're gonna fill a fucking soccer stadium of 100,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
Like you don't have to have the North American Stadium show in the fall. Plus, thinking about it from a perspective of you can't have any of those in the Northeast because of rain and or colder weather.
Well, and there's been rumors too of a show in Mexico City this year too. So you could bump that into October.
Yeah,
that's gonna make out like crazy as well.
Yep. And that's the thing. Like coming out of this show, it's like moving the pieces around from here. Like I feel like he has to win the title, even if he just drops it in a month.
And to me, that's why it's got to be Gunther. Like the Cody, I love that they didn't just have him call it on Monday.
Yeah,
I like that they're teasing it a bit, but it's going to and should be Gunther. Because that's the one he's going to win. Yeah, he doesn't have to be a long-term champion, but so I saw a tweet on Monday. It said a lot of people in the IWC hate on this man, but this dude has a connection with the crowd that you can't just take for granted. It's organic and it's real. 67,000 went crazy when he won. They love that dude, and I'm like, bingo, like that hits the nail on the head. And I said, and here's the thing. I don't think that Jey Uso is a long-term top guy. Like I don't think he's gonna have 7 title reigns, 6 of them lasting 6 months or more. Stack the wins. Always, he's not gonna be the Kevin Owens that you can always just insert into a title break glass in case of emergency. But for the last year plus, as we've really gone on this Jey Uso, I'm on my own run. Listen to the crowd reactions at every pay-per-view. US, Canada, internationally. Dude's over as hell, right? Like, again, listen to the crowd when he eliminates John Cena to win the Rumble. Go back and watch the opening segment to Monday Night Raw this week on Netflix, when he had to curtain call the corner spot 3 times. You can't fake that. You can't fake the yes movement. You can't, and not that I'm necessarily comparing this to any of these things. You can't manufacture the yes movement. You can't manufacture Kofi Mania, and you can't just manufacture what the crowd's doing for Jey Uso, because the WWE has tried to manufacture guys to this spot and it doesn't work. If the fans don't want it, the fans aren't going to take it. See post Shield Roman Reigns, right? The fans didn't like it.
I think it's totally fair to compare the Yeet movement to the Yes movement and Kofi Mania.
I mean,
I think it
like,
fits into that 100% in my mind.
Yeah.
The only difference, like maybe more Kofi than Brian, because the thing with Brian was he wasn't getting pushed, and the crowd was rebelling against that. Jay's getting pushed. He was getting pushed, but we're all still saying, "Yay, we're happy he's getting pushed." And that fits the Kofi thing.
They're all similar but different.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's and here's the thing. If it's not this year, it's never. You're never going to get this opportunity back.
I will say, I agree with you. It is. I do agree with you. I think in the calendar year of 2025, he needs to win a world title. If it's not at WrestleMania, it still needs to happen this year in some capacity. That said, too, though, I do sort of feel like the thing with Jay in particular is that I kind of want him to be like the TNA of human beings. Like, you know how you were just saying, like, he doesn't have the longevity. I want us to be talking in another 20 years. And it's like, well, Jay Uso just won his 14th fucking world title. Holy shit. Goddamn.
What I will say.
Little Jimmy in the corner.
February 2nd, 2025 was the culmination of something that started on October 25th, 2020.
Yeah.
When he lost the I Quit match inside Hell in the Cell to Roman Reigns. There was no time that anybody thought people would be more behind Jey Uso. And he proved him wrong.
Yeah.
And to know that 80 to 100,000 people are going to be fucking bouncing around
that like crazy.
Song with Pat McAfee and Wade Barrett and Michael Cole.
Can it not be Wade Barrett?
I mean, I hope it's not Wade Barrett personally.
I don't ever want to sit through another event.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
With Pat McAfee and Wade Barrett on commentary together.
You didn't enjoy.
You don't want to hit with the
Pat.
You don't want to hit with the Barrett barrage.
And Michael Cole in a can. That was regardless of what I think about the show as a whole, the commentary on the Royal Rumble 2025 was one of the worst commentary tables I have heard in a long time in the WWE.
I tuned it out a lot. I just kind of got in. I was into the show a lot.
Fucking hell. My last thought on Jay is like any of these other guys, with the exception of John Cena. Obviously, he's retiring. But John Cena doesn't need to win the Royal Rumble to get a title shot in his final year. He really doesn't.
Correct.
He didn't even need to qualify for the Elimination Chamber.
No. But like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, to probably a lesser extent because of age, CM Punk, Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre, like any of these guys are going to be in a position, in a make sense, justifiable position to win the Rumble next year. Jey Uso is probably getting no bigger than he is today. And then this past weekend, that's why Jey Uso was 100% the right choice.
He's got one shot to be bigger than he was at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah.
Yep. April 19th or 20th inside of Allegiant Stadium.
Probably the 19th, but yes.
I mean, unless he opens the show on the 20th.
He could. I think, and I don't have the stats on it, but I'll probably look into that the next week when we actually build the card.
Yep.
But I feel like they try to separate.
They try.
The title.
They try. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it doesn't. But
like they opened night 2 with Damian Priest cashing in, and then the main event was Cody versus Roman.
Correct. I also think. I mean, last year was a kind of a little special spot because
Seth was involved in the main event of night 1.
And Cody. Yeah, Cody and both both world titles were in a tag
3
match.
out of 4.
Night one. So
3 out of 4 of the main event were involved.
Yeah. But yeah, that's where I'm at on the Royal Rumble. Joe, we'll hit your topic now.
Sure. I also just want to say real fast, I know there's no scenario in the world where anyone from Busted Open would possibly listen to our podcast. But I really wish that 24 hours after a show, the title of their episode wouldn't just give away the clear winner for those of us that are maybe avoiding spoilers because we had work and didn't get a chance to. Like, I avoided all of social media for an entire day, which is not easy, especially when you're someone like me who does the scrolling of the Facebook and the Instagram and all of that. I stayed off of that stuff. I went to specific Reddits to make sure I didn't see anything on wrestling. I went to like the Pop Punk Reddit and the Survivor Reddit, and it was like, staying away from any possible spoilers. And then I just get a little notification on my phone, and it's like, your podcasts have been updated, and it's like, Busted Open. Jey Uso shocks the world. And I'm just like, well, gee, I wonder who won the fucking Rumble, because unless he won an impromptu Money in the Bank match at the beginning of the show and cashed it in on fucking Rhea Ripley, there ain't no way he shocked the world except he won the Royal Rumble. So fuck you, Busted Open. Anyway, my topic, and it actually speaks directly to the Rumble, even though I thought about it before knowing who won the Rumble matches. When it comes to pro wrestling, do you prefer when it's, I'm going to call it satisfying, because the word predictable has a negative connotation to it. But when a storyline has its clear, this is the way it should go, this is the way it should end moment, or do you prefer the shock and awe, the swerve bro, Vince Russo approach? Like, and here's a perfect example, and besides the Rumbles, because, again, like Charlotte Flair, obvious choice. Jey Uso, more of a surprise, right? But let's go even, like, further back in time. You remember when they did the Who is Vince McMahon's Other Child storyline? And the obvious place to take that was Mr. Kennedy. So naturally it was Hornswoggle. That's the difference right there. And I think a lot of times, like, look, Cody Rhodes losing at WrestleMania 39. Swerve. Cody Rhodes winning at WrestleMania 40. Absolutely going to the right place in the right moment and doing the right thing. Which do you prefer? And when it comes to your pro wrestling, do you want to be surprised, or do you want satisfying stories reaching their conclusion?
I think it's difficult because I think ultimately it's almost story by story, right? Like I'm fine if a Intercontinental title match on Clash of the Champions in mid-September, or practically the entire card is quote unquote predictable as long as the matches are pretty good, no real title changes, no real surprise. I don't expect much out of Clash of the Champions on September 22nd from Poughkeepsie. But WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, not Survivor Series, SummerSlam. I think it's important there to have at least a degree of surprise, elements of surprise, elements of swerve. But like to not just give the lazy answer of both. Ultimately, I think I fall in the category of I would probably prefer more the like I'd rather have wrestling like fulfill me as opposed to surprise me, because let's be fair, a surprise, a swerve isn't always good.
No.
And in a lot of times, especially if you're naming the Vince Russo name, it bad. Like, bro. So we've had a lot of bad surprises over the course of our history as a wrestling fans, long time wrestling fans. So for me, if really pressed to answer the question, I would much rather have my wrestling be fulfilling than surprising, because there's going to be times where the fulfillment is going to be a little bit of a surprise. I'm not talking like a huge swerve, Barry Horowitz pin skip from the Body Donnas.
It's like when you last 10 seconds instead of 3.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, like there's going to be times when you go, oh, I didn't really expect that. I don't call that a swerve. Like me going, like, wow, so and so won, or hell, even like from the Royal Rumble this past weekend, Penta going almost an hour. Like, I didn't necessarily expect that, but he looked great. He looked like $1 million. That's not that sort of example is not a swerve. So yeah, for me, I think I like my wrestling to be more fulfilling than shocking.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. Like, Joe can attest to it. Even with Cody finishing the story last year in Philly, like leaving 39 in LA, like I was angry. Like, it didn't, like, part of me still doesn't understand why wait the year. I get it. He made it to 1,000 days. They sold a lot of memorabilia and title belts because of it. Financially driven, more likely. But part of me is still like, why? So it's like, I prefer myself the same as Jim. It's like, let's fulfill what we've put all the work into to get to at this point. If that's wrapping up the storyline the way it should be, or wrapping it up and being like, nope, I'm okay with it. The shock and awe, the swerve, like, it's nice every once in a while, but like Jim said, not everything's good. Not every swerve is the one that you want. Not every swerve is the one that you're like, oh, this is awesome. This is how, like, this should be, and this is how this is going to be for however long. I mean, swerve, and next thing you know, Penta wins the Royal Rumble, and you're like, I like it, but now who the fuck's he going to wrestle? It's like, you swerved me, and I'm like, I'm super hyped and I'm super shocked, but like, okay, but what now? Jey Uso, it's okay. Is he going to seek retribution on Gunther? Is he going to try to revenge the family? Like, you have some things that you could go with in that regard, where it's like, okay, cool. But the other thing is the storyline, not just the Cody Rhodes storyline, but the Bloodline storyline, I think, is the major thing here, where the goal was always to have Roman win the title and keep the title for however long possible. But I was like, and going back to Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns inside Hell in the Cell in the I Quit match, there was like a 0.01% chance that Jey Uso was walking out of the Thunderdome with the title that night. But I was on the edge of my seat the entire time because that match was fucking fantastic. And it got booked the way that it should have been. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, the shock stuff is cool. The shock stuff is fun. You can't shock me anymore. You want to know why? Because I was at San Francisco when Burn It Down kicked on and the heist of the century occurred. There is no surprising me anymore. That is height of surprise. I don't think there is a swerve that I'm not ready for anymore. You swerved the shit out of me for fucking the last 14 plus years with WrestleManias. I don't think there's a swerve that you can get me on anymore. So let me enjoy the in-ring work. Let me enjoy the culmination of the time and the energy that not just the competitors, but like us as fans put into this, and us as media members put into this. Like, The swerve stuff's cool every once in a while, but I mean, I'm good with just watching these guys finish the arcs of their stories.
See, I'll say this because I agree with you guys. I love a good long-term story. I love it getting paid off. I love that. But there are times when it is kind of like, all right, so then why am I watching this? You know what I mean? Like, for example, Roman versus Solo on the first Raw for the Ua Nation. You knew that Roman was going to win that match.
Correct.
So, and don't get me wrong, I think they had a great match. I genuinely think they had a great match. But it's a little less exciting when you feel like you know 100% who's definitely going to win because that's the obvious thing to do and that's what they're going to do. Imagine if Solo had won that match. Like, does that put it in a different... Would Roman have been hurt by that? Would, or does it open up more story? Would an unexpected finish like that? Like, that's the only place where I'm like, sometimes maybe it doesn't hurt to go the unexpected direction. And I think actually Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble is a perfect example of that. Because that wasn't the most expected thing. Like we said, there were like 5 guys that we could have guessed would have won before him. So it is kind of cool that like Jey Uso winning isn't the most expected thing. It was, if I hadn't been spoiled for that and I had just watched it, I'd have probably been like, what the fuck? Like, I genuinely wish I had been able to see that without knowing that it happened. Because, okay, example, I had no idea that AJ Styles returned. That nobody busted open didn't spoil for me. So when he walked out on my TV about 3 hours ago when I was watching the Rumble finally, I legitimately was like, oh shit, fucking AJ is back. That's awesome. Like, so, like, you know, like genuinely, it is cool to be surprised. And I will say that wrestling, more than almost any other entertainment, pulls off the surprise. Because obviously, like, they get that sports element where you don't know what's going to happen, where it could just go either way. But then they also get that storytelling element that you get in fiction. So, I don't know. I think it's awesome.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that's why ultimately the answer to the question is both. Like, I don't think it's really possible to answer the question one way or the other, because if wrestling was always just quote unquote predictable and fulfilling, then what's the point of watching? Because we know what we're getting. I mean, even with sitcoms or TV shows that are scripted, there's times where you have a shocking end. Like, obviously drama shows like your Chicago Fires and stuff like that, there always has to be drama to hook you in. But even sitcoms, sometimes, like, you get the to be continued. Corey cheats on Topanga. What? Like, Topanga. Michelle falls off the horse and loses her memory in Full House. What? Like, you even have to have those moments in sitcoms, which usually we know the story arc in a sitcom. Everybody comes in and laughs. There's some sort of drama. Big message at the end. Everybody hugs. Like, that's what a sitcom arc is. We even have to have swerves in there. So if everything was always predictable, what the heck's the point of watching? But if everything is also a swerve, then there's literally no swerves. If everything, it's kind of why I think some people get tired on AEW a little bit, because if every match is 5 stars, no matches are 5 stars. If every match has 100 flippy doos, no match, like a guy doing a flippy do doesn't matter. When John Moxley bleeds in the opening match, you getting color in your main event for the world title means less, because you just saw somebody get a gusher in a fucking match that nobody's going to remember in a week and a half.
No, that's real. Like in the Rumble, when there was that moment at the beginning where it was like all the Lucha guys and Carmelo Hayes, and they all went after Chad Gable, and they got him, and then they all did the spots on each other that looked the same. I was like, am I watching Collision? I see this all the time on AEW. Like, I don't need this.
Right.
But, it killed it.
But you don't get that in WWE.
Right. Correct.
So, like, if you don't watch a ton of wrestling and you only watch the WWE,
that might have been really cool.
That's a wild spot. But yeah, like for people that we watch other wrestling, it's like, okay, cool. Like we've already seen this before. But there's a lot of people. Like, again, let's be fair. If even on their best day, 900,000 people watch AEW Dynamite, those 900,000 know who Penta is. Add another 500,000 in Mexico, that's 1.5 million people. 6 million people watch the debut episode of Raw on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
That means there's 5 million people who have never seen Penta before. Cool. You know what I mean? So like I think the ultimate, the correct answer is there has to be a mix there, because with if everything's predictable, nobody's watching. If everything is a shock, then nothing is shocking, and then we know we're going to be shocked, so it's not predictable. I think ultimately it's finding that balance, which WWE, especially I think in the Triple H era, have done a pretty good job at finding.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment.
Would you say, thinking back on it real fast, and then we can move on, we can do Wrestlers of the Week and wrap up, but if you had to think back of all of the years, and we can just use WWE, WWF as the example, you had to think of the worst year in the history of your wrestling fandom. Was it a predictable year, or was it a year where it was all swerves?
Well, Jim's going to say swerves because the Montreal Screwjob happened, and we know they fucked Brett. So
they fooked him.
They fooked him.
They fooked Brett.
It's still the best part of the whole fucking thing. Thank you, Bruce Pritchard, for that one.
Oh, they fooked him.
They fooked. What do you mean they fooked him? They fooked Brett.
Oh my God. R.I.P. Davey Boy. So I'm thinking back and like there's kind of two periods of time that I really look at as being kind of the peak, the pinnacle. When you look back at the Attitude Era and 97, 98, I think there was a lot of surprises. And we were getting kind of inundated with what the hell's happening and chaos and this and that. And man, as a 13, 14-year-old, that era was a fucking blast. I don't know if at 39 I'm enjoying that product.
Right.
So I think but so in more recent years, like in my kind of return to wrestling since I started podcasting and whatnot, I think of the S movement and then Cody finishing his story, and like there was a degree of predictability there. Like I always felt like ultimately Daniel Bryan's going to get his big moment. Obviously the shock of WrestleMania 39 with Cody, but even from there, it's like this dude still has to. He's got to finish. He's got to do it at some point, right? Like there's no way that he's going to like come back to WWE and they're going to make him, they're going to let him be the American Nightmare. And the night after he beats Seth Rollins, they're going to fucking have him come out on Raw and cry about I'm going for that title that my dad never won. And then he tears his pec and he goes to this whole return and the YouTube Beautiful Day gimmick, like Triple H back in the day played again. And like, there's no way that we're not going to get this payoff. So now it's like, I was probably even more bought in the day after WrestleMania 39 than I was before it, because now it's like, okay, how are we getting to probably WrestleMania next year? How are you going to keep me? Because I know it's coming. I know it is, but get me there. I'm in. Get me there. And so there's times when unpredictability and swerves are entertaining, but at the same time, it's like I knew once I knew we were getting to WrestleMania 40 and Cody's going to win. But goddamn, if that fucking year wasn't some of the most compelling wrestling I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to think about like bad years, like predictably like bad years. Like,
I mean, if I let WCW into the conversation,
oh boy, that's a whole other conversation for a whole other show.
Like the WCW circa 1999 and 2000 proves why all swerves is not the way to go.
Correct. Can't swerve just to swerve, bro.
Like every show you'd watch, and every storyline would just be shot to shit by the end of it because they had to have a swerve that made no sense whatsoever.
Pass on that. My favorite years of wrestling, I think it's been a little bit of both. I think my least favorite years, it's been more the swerve on swerve. You know, as someone who watched a lot of WCW and watched a lot of WWE, like the swerve of Vince McMahon winning the Royal Rumble. Like that storyline was great, but like the swerve of him winning the Rumble, I was just like, what the fuck, man? So, I mean, obviously, I'll say pros and cons. I think the real thing here is you can't have all of one or all of the other. I think you have to have both, and not having both makes wrestling, I'm not going to say boring, but it just makes it kind of vanilla.
No, I agree. And actually, that's a perfect example. Because 99, it was so obvious that the right story was Austin winning the Rumble that they naturally let Vince win the Rumble.
Yeah.
And we still got to Austin fighting for the world title on WrestleMania and winning the belt. And it's like, so what was the point?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, that was a good example. I like that one.
Swerve for the sake of swerve, bro. All right. Wrestlers of the week. Jim, I'll let you go first.
I mean, it's got to be main event Jey Uso, right? He's got to be the number one.
Would you say that you're feeling very Usi?
Yeet.
Joseph?
By that same logic, I got to pick Charlotte, unfortunately.
All right. I will take Cody Rhodes, who retained the WWE Championship.
There's a couple ways I could go with this one. Nikki Bella on the return to WWE. With the year she's had and whatnot, I think that was a great spot. And it's not a long time in the match, but she looked good.
Joseph?
You know what? For the fairness of fully representing the Royal Rumble on the show, go ahead and give me the tag team champions, DIY, retaining their belts.
All right. I will also take a return. I will take Alexa Bliss as my final wrestler of the week. Wrap up from the month of January, because Joe actually got me picks. Our top 15 through the month of January. At number 1 is Tiffany Stratton. Number 2 is Joe Hendry. Number 3 is Julia. Number 4 is Zack Sabre Jr. Number 5 is the Hurt Syndicate. Number 6, Obafemi. Number 7. Oh shit! Lost my. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is. Where'd my fucking shit go? No. All right. There it is. Oh, no, that's way wrong. That was
you want to hear something wild?
That was my list. Okay, here it is. It's Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, Julia, Obafemi, Joe Hendry, Lyra Valkyria, the Hurt Syndicate, Penta and Zack Sabre Jr. tied, CM Punk, Gunther, Takeshita, Effie, Matt Riddle, and then tied for 16th, the War Raiders, John Moxley, Kenny Omega, Masha Slamovich, and Damian Priest.
Want to hear something wild?
Sure.
Not only did I get you that list, I have my WrestleMania cards.
Jesus.
Thank God. Just don't lose them.
No, they're saved. They're on my phone. It's a note. I got a wild WrestleMania card. There's all sorts of things. There's a TNA World Title match. There's a Lucha Daisy Fuentes match. There's all sorts of things.
And you got your damn list into Mike before I did.
Did you say Lucha Daisy Fuentes?
Yeah, the one where it's hair versus mask, whatever they call that.
Lucha de Fuentes?
That guy.
Okay.
I love how the white guy tells this Spanish guy.
Hey, I am not a Latino. Thank you, Donald Trump. I love you.
So I spoiler alerted this to Jim before you got in the show. I have a match. I will not tell you which night of WrestleMania that it's on, but it is a callback. It is a fight without honors. Kevin Owens versus El Generico. Not Sami Zayn, not anyone else in the world, but a luchador from Tijuana, Canada. That's where I will leave you on the WrestleMania card predictions for next week. Joe, do you have anything that you want to plug besides the Joe Movie Podcast, all one word, on Spotify?
No, that's it. We're about to do, by like this time next week, we should have our top 10 of 2024 lists posted episodes.
Sick.
So
There you go.
Jim.
You can get me at Big Jim Sports Hot Love Podcast. We have our last live show until August coming up this Tuesday. So get ready for that. 3CT. We went long form tonight. Went about 90 minutes on that. We went long form on Tuesday. So plenty of stuff 3CT wise to listen to. So make sure you do check that out. All of it's in my link tree on my Twitter and Blue Sky.
I was actually on that episode of 3CT this week. It was a lot of fun. You can listen to me talk South Florida baseball, Sunny Days and Double Plays. Our playoff preview episode will go up live tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. You can follow me on Twitter at They Call Me Bird. You can follow the show at Take the Number 3 Wrestling. Until next week, where we will predict what happens from Allegiant Stadium in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. For Joe, for Jim, I'm Mike. We will see you next week right here on the Take 3 Wrestling Podcast.